services. Some of them that didn't want to go into Army infantry,
Yeah.
they could choose a service they wanted to serve in. But anyhow, they those most of them wanted to get into the Air Force. Are you sure that's going to be able to?
Yeah, as I think it's two.
There
I'm
you
just
go.
trying to cut out the noise from outside.
Okay. So you're in high school, the war breaks out.
And I was 17 years old.
Okay.
And by that time we were.
Do you remember any friends that
Oh yeah.
that went or had to go
yeah.
before you?
It was quite.
Remember their names?
Let's see. No, I really was. I enlisted before they did. See, some of them weren't even. Some of them just dropped out of high school
Uh-huh.
and got jobs.
There was one guy that you said that.
And we they got jobs and they eventually they got drafted, but I went way ahead of them. Yeah.
Okay.
And by that time when I got in, I went over and I volunteered to go in. That's so I could get into the Navy. I wanted to get into the Navy. Because my cousin Wilfred, he was in the Navy at the time. Well, he got in before the war, you know.
Oh.
And his ship was sunk off during the D-Day invasion.
Did he die?
No, he survived it. He survived about 3 sinkings, you know.
Really?
Yeah, I know. But
Lucky.
Boy,
Or
was he.
unlucky. I don't
Was
know.
he lucky, man. But then we got, next I was, they took me in, I went to boot camp, you know, and then I took a course in electricity while I was there, so, and then we, after I got out of boot camp, they took us to a place in Balboa Park where you awaited for them to ship you out.
Mm-hmm.
And while
Balboa Park in San Diego?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And we went, and when they used to let us out, we'd go over. They used to have a zoo there in San Diego, in Balboa Park,
Uh-huh.
and they had a gorilla there, the biggest one you ever saw in my life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And what he was, and he was caught. He was brought in by some woman named a woman and her husband, the Johnsons. They were that type of what is it, scientist. And they had a picture of him. And that damn he was so big you can't believe it, man. He was an enormous thing, and he had a whole harem of females.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, they wanted him to be.
So what were you guys doing at the park?
We were just looking at the zoo, you know. Everybody wants to go to the San Diego Zoo, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the biggest ones in the country, you know.
Yeah.
And then I remember we sneaked out one night. I wanted to come home, you know,
Uh-huh.
before we left. So me and a guy named Bucky. He lived in I think he lived in Glendale, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
And we sneaked out and we had to climb over the fence. As a matter of fact, the guy supposed to be guarding the fence gave us a boost. You know?
Oh, you're kidding.
When we got over it, we let's see, there was some crazy. He was a crazy officer, you know.
Uh-huh.
And he just happened to be out there, and he let out a big scream, you know, hey, get him, you know. So he came running after us, you know. And as he came running after us, he just burst out of the bushes, and there he was.
Really?
You know?
Maybe he knew somebody would sneak
Oh,
in
yeah,
the zoo.
and Bucky turned around and decked him, man. And I thought, oh
man.
boy, we're gonna go to prison for this.
Yeah.
You know? So we made our getaway, you know.
Uh-huh.
So
They never
He-
saw who you were?
well, he probably did, but it was kind of dusk, you know.
Uh-huh.
The sky was getting dark, and I came home, you know. Bucky went over to his home, and I stayed here, and we came back Monday.
Oh, so you guys were out on leave for the weekend?
Well,
Or were
not
you
exactly.
assigned to the barracks, or?
Well, no, we had to stay there, you
Oh,
know,
okay.
because you never can tell when they're going to ship you out.
Oh,
And from
okay.
there, on a
So you guys
in
never
the-
got
in the-
caught for that? Never.
No.
Wow.
No, I guess he didn't want to admit that somebody had punched him out.
Maybe they figured they needed you guys to go off to war too.
Yeah.
Said,
But,
yeah.
well, the guy's probably dead by now. He probably got killed during the war. But so he's not there. But he was crazy. That's
Bucky?
crazy. Yeah, no, the officer.
Oh yeah, to be hiding. What was he doing hiding in the bushes?
Well, he was a kind of a nut, you know.
Uh-huh.
I thought he was. I didn't think he was all there, you know. So we.
Did he stay with you the whole time after you got on the ship and everything?
No.
Okay.
They I think I was in a draft that they took out at the beginning of the week there. So I went down. And they got all of us and they marched us down to the docks. I forgot whether they marched us or they took us in a truck or something like that. And there was about 2,000 Marines waiting there too. And it was we were supposed to board an aircraft carrier.
Mhm.
It was one of these Essex class carriers, a big son of a gun, you know. And you know, I found out later, wait till after the President Bush, and not the father of
Yeah.
the Bush we got now, was assigned to that aircraft carrier, and he was the youngest pilot in the Navy.
Wow.
Yeah, he was flying. He was supposed to fly one of those what do they call those torpedo planes, a TBM or TBF.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't know I wouldn't know who he was anyhow. You know, I didn't know by way around the ship or anything. We just a bunch of innocents. So they got us together in a draft. Not too many of us, you know, and they shipped us out. And they put us on board the aircraft carrier, and I was in charge of their papers. For some reason, they gave me their papers, and we took off. And boy, I tell you, it was the first time I left the United States, you know, and it. I remember some old Marine, you know, he was a veteran already of the Pacific War. He used to take a look at it, son. He said, "You ain't gonna see that for a long time." You know, San Diego was fading away.
What did you feel like when he said that?
I don't know. You know, when you're young, you don't mind it. You know.
Yeah.
And so they took us out, and after I think it took us about 4 or 5 days to get there, but we were.
You on a ship for that long?
Yeah, I was on that aircraft carrier. That's a ship.
Yeah.
It was an Essex class. I forgot the name of it, but I can't remember. It had a strange name, but anyhow, they got it. We went to Pearl Harbor, and we got off of Pearl Harbor, and they took all of us, you know. I had to turn in my papers to an officer, you know, or to somebody that's supposed to be in charge there. And they took us, and they took us to a place called the Destroyer Base. I guess they were going to put us on destroyers, you know. And we stayed there. I forgot how long. About 3 or 4 weeks, maybe a month, you know. And that was in those days. Hawaii was the territory of Hawaii, and it was called. They called it, some of these places they called the frontier base, because it was the frontier in those days.
Yeah.
Because from Hawaii on out, it was Indian country.
Yeah. That's where the war was taking place.
Well, that's where the Japanese they had all of that.
Yeah.
So they put us on a light. It was an anti-aircraft cruiser, they called it. That thing was packed with 5-inch guns. That's what it was for, anti-aircraft. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And they shoved us, and we went out after we had been there finally. They shoved us out, and we went out. We went out to sea.
How many people were with you? We went out
Not
there?
very many. There's only
Really?
about 6 of us.
Really?
Yeah, the same draft that we got pulled
Were
out of
you on
San
it?
Diego. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and they gave me the papers. So when I got, I had to hand them over to the people in charge.
Mm-hmm.
There on the aircraft, on that anti-aircraft cruiser.
Mm-hmm.
And then they took us out, and man, we went a long ways, man. And we went to, I think it was an atoll or something like that. Well, anyhow, there was a whole bunch of ships there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They were warships this time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were there. There was a whole bunch of them, you know, destroyers, cruisers, battleships, aircraft carriers, and they got us, and they put us. They knew where we were supposed to go, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they took my papers, and we got into this landing craft, and this landing craft took us over to this. They took me over. Let's see, there was Winterbauer and myself. I forgot somebody else's name, and we went out to the Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know what ship we were going to get on, but we came there to a destroyer, and they took us off. We got our sea bags. You know, we had to carry everything in a big old sea bag, and I got on board the ship, and well, I think, you know, the ship is rolling like that, so you stagger around, and we got on board. The moment we were on board, man, the first thing they did, man, they took us, they gave us a helmet,
Uh-huh.
a life preserver, you know, and gave us something to eat. They fed us, and then they told us, you stay back here with this repair party. They assigned me to something they call the repair party.
Uh-huh.
Back then, in case a ship got hit, you know, you made repairs
Yeah.
and rescued people. And we were, we got on there. At the moment we got on there, they started weighing anchor. We were going someplace, you know.
Oh.
And they said pretty soon, there was a lot of destroyers. Well, not a lot of them, maybe 5 or 6 of them, maybe 7, I don't know. They began to gather, you know, and they were getting ready to go someplace, you know. And we didn't know I didn't know what was going on. I was a poor innocent kid, you know. And,
Hey.
and they gave us this, they gave us a station. I was back there with the repair. I guess 3 of us. The 3 of us had got on board with the repair party. They didn't have we hadn't been trained on anything, you know. So we could go back there and help those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we went back there, they were upping anchor.
Mm-hmm.
And they had set the special sea detail, they call it. And we started to pull out.
Mm-hmm.
And as we went to the opening there, you know, to get out to sea from the harbor, there's some destroyers started to pull out after us. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought we were all gathering, and we went out. But then we opened up, you know, the speed, and it was our squadron,
Mm-hmm.
the destroyer squadron I belonged to. Of course, I didn't know that. I found all that out later.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were going out, we were heading up north, I guess, but in the Solomon Islands or west. Oh. But we were heading out, and they just said they didn't have any place for us to sleep. You just flop on the deck. You know, it didn't make any difference because it was warm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, of course it was a sealed deck.
Well, what did you have a sleeping bag or a pillow?
Yes,
or
I did, you know.
Sleeping bag?
You didn't just lay out your junk there.
Yeah.
nobody ever bothered to do anything, and everybody's just asleep up topside. Yeah, because it was so hot underneath there.
Was it?
Yeah, the sun was shining on that steel deck, you know, and the heat would go down, and you'd
Yeah.
cook underneath there, you know.
Yeah.
And some of the guys that were close to a blower, you know, or something. They had it good. You could sleep on them.
Yeah.
And we went out and oh, we had traveled there for I forget how many hours, you know. The sun had gone down, and evidently the captain or whoever it was, you know, that were in charge of the ship knew where we were going, and about I don't know what time at night it was. It was pretty late at night when all of a sudden, you know, they sounded general quarters, you know, dang, 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 dang. So, uh-oh. He said, this don't sound very good, you know. And as we went out, and we opened up, you know, we were hitting flank speed. And as we were hitting, I remember way out there in the distance, I saw this boom, 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 you know.
Yeah.
And you see these big red balls going through the air, you know. Uh-oh, you know, and we were headed for it, you know.
Yeah.
And there was a fight going on someplace, you know. And we were in there, and they told us, you know, surface action starboard, I think it was, yeah. We were making turns in the water, you know. You can't be scared because you don't know what to be scared
Yeah, you
of,
don't know what's going on.
And yeah, we were going in and out, you know, and we were firing, you know, we were shooting and everything like that.
So there was a war going on. You guys were the backup,
You know.
showing up.
Well, we were part of it.
Yeah. But you were backing up the American troops that were already there fighting, or the ships that were already
This was
fighting.
a sea battle.
Yeah. Well, the ships that
And
were already fighting.
we went there actually to shell an island too. And then we.
So
were
how long
fighting.
did that last?
Oh, I don't know. I can't tell now.
Really?
You know, it was quite a
day,
ways. It was
or?
bang, 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 bang. There was a lot of shooting going on, and then they secured from general quarters. And then we headed back to where we came from.
Really?
Back to that thing.
So that happened quite a few times.
Oh yeah. Well, that was always happening. You know, you'd get a few splashes around you from shells, you know, that were fired at you, and they'd splash around you like that.
How long were you in the service?
About 3 years.
3 years.
3 years and a few months. But anyhow, we got done there. Then from there on, we went over and refueled and loaded up more ammunition. And then we went out on what they called the Asiatic Pacific raids. Because that was and we were gone for about 3 months. Let's see. And in the meantime, you know, we had to load up supplies, you know, food, ammunition, and fuel. And we went out and we were running around the ocean, you know. We'd find these places where they had an air base or something like that, and we'd shoot it up. Actually, most of the time we'd be escorting the carrier to protect it from airplanes and submarines like that.
Yeah.
And we were.
So your planes could land on a place to
well,
land.
you know, the air. We'd send out. We were sending out dive bombers, you know, bombers and fighters. They'd go out there and they'd wreck their airfields. You
So
know.
tell us about the kamikazes.
Oh, that came out later, years later, you know. But we were.
Not that many years.
Oh, well,
You're
yeah.
still a kid when that happened.
We were. From then on, we got into the Asiatic Pacific. Asiatic. I think we went into a place called Truck. And some of the aviators, we lost about 12 guys were in there. And they sent us in to get them. And we got in there alone. I'm not sure whether the Dyson was with us or not. But we were in there, and there was but we were going to go into that group there, this atoll. It's called Truck, but it was just like Pearl Harbor. I mean, it was a huge base the Japanese had to. we probably would have been damaged or something like that. But after we went, they called us out, and they sent in a submarine called the Tang. I found that out later, the name of the submarine. It was in a magazine or something like that. And we went, and they sent them in, and they picked up the pilots and air crews that were in there, and they took them out, and then we went back to base, you know. And we did that, and later on, you know, we had a shell, a place called Bougainville, and but that was because of they decided to invade it.
Bougainville, where was that?
The third, it's in the northern Solomons.
Oh, okay.
And they decided to, let's see, how was it? There was the 3rd Marine Division was invading the place, you know, and we had a shell at first, you know, we had to cover them and try to take out some of their positions, and artillery they might be shooting at them. And then after that we went out of there, and we heard that there was that the Japanese were sending out a big force of surface ships, you know. What they wanted to do, they wanted to get behind our troops there and shell them too, and maybe shoot up our transports that were there. So they got us together, and we went out, you know. We went out to meet them, and that night, it was at nighttime, we started making a torpedo run. And that's what, you know, we went toward them, you know, they were splashing shells around us, and we threw torpedoes at them. And we nailed, I forget how many, we sunk quite a few. What was it? We sunk 3 or 4 destroyers and a light cruiser, I think it was. But we had, this time when we went out, we had some light cruisers with us, 4 of them. Yeah, that was I have it in a book in there someplace.
So did you spend all 3 years out on the water?
Not
Or
all 3 years. So
how long were you
we ought to come back, you know, because you have to make repairs and stuff like that.
So you came all the way back to San Diego?
No. After we went through there and we invaded, let's see, after that we pulled out of there and we went up to, we had what they called the Bismarck Archipelago. I think that's where we were operating. And then we went back out and we went to the, what do they call those islands? And we went into this, well, it was called Eniwetok, Kwajalein, Majuro. And from Eniwetok, they sent us into to the Marianas. I don't know what the heck we were doing at the Japanese owned. We went in, I think there was some, our aircraft carriers were raiding them, so they separated us from them. Because we went out there in company with them there, with larger ships, and then they sent us in by ourselves. You know. And we were about 100 some, I don't know how many, maybe 200 miles away from our main force, and we were probing in the islands, you know, in there. And we had heard that these ships, some of our planes had gotten shot down, you know, anti-aircraft, I guess, I don't know. But we went in there, and they were in trouble, you know, because there was a Japanese warship was after them. And this guy had landed. He had landed and picked them up, you know, and there was about more than the airplane could carry. They were hanging on and riding on the wings, you know.
You're
and
kidding.
Yeah. No, they couldn't take off. So what they did was they'd get the airplane and they'd gun it and get it out of range of that ship that was shooting at them. You know. It was a gunboat or something like that. And they thought they'd had it, man. And we came around. Yeah, we came around. We shot it. We sunk it. You know. We blew it to hell. And the other one, actually, it was escorting about three of those transports. No, they weren't transports. They were cargo ships.
Mhm.
I guess they were bringing cargo to the island. You know?
Mhm.
And we shot it up. You know, we shot it up, and the other guy, the ship that was with us, the Dyson, she went after the others. I don't know if it was the Dyson or the Thatcher,
Uh-huh.
but she went out. She went out, and it polished them up, you know,
Yeah.
set them on fire, you know, shelling them and stuff like that, and let them take care of it, you know. And then they sunk. I don't know. We sunk them. We got a whole bunch of them during the war,
Uh-huh.
and we sunk them. But we picked up the pilots.
Uh-huh.
You know. We picked up the pilots, and the ship, the airplane was too damaged to you know, to take off. So we got everybody off of there and put them on our ship, and then we sunk it. We put our 20 men. We tried sinking it with submachine guns. It didn't work, you know.
Uh-huh.
Tut, 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 tut. Can't do no damage with that thing. So get over there. And they put a 20 millimeter on there. That 20 millimeter tore it up. You know?
Yeah.
And it just set it on fire, tipped over and sank. You know. In the meantime, we got out of there.
Mhm.
They had airplanes after us.
Mm-hmm.
He said we were up against we just following the island up against it, you know, till
Mhm.
and we could see out there, you know, before the sun goes completely down. There's a bit of light out there, you know,
Mhm.
and you could see the airplanes. You could see them far.
How do you
away.
know they were their airplanes and not yours, though?
Oh, we knew.
You knew?
We knew. On our radar we had something they call IFF.
Mhm.
That's identification, friend or foe.
Mm.
Our planes turned on their IFF, and we knew they were ours.
Mm.
And if they didn't have that IFF on for the day,
I
it was
see.
a certain code for that day, you know. Well, then, you know, we knew they were enemies. So, you know,
Yeah.
we could defend ourselves, but they were enemy aircraft. There was a whole bunch of them out there looking for us.
Mhm.
The sun came down, and we took off, and we went over to the carrier, and we returned their pilots. We
Mhm.
returned them, actually, we put them on a carrier. Actually,
Uh-huh.
they probably were from cruisers and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But they gave us, I forget how many gallons of ice cream for them.
Really?
Every time. But we didn't have none of that stuff, you know.
Yeah, that was the reward, huh?
Yeah, that was our reward for bringing their pilots back, you know.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we had one hell of a time, you know. And then we went. Then the time came, but we went out. We heard that there was a big task force coming out from the Philippines or from someplace, you know.
Mhm.
And it was it was a lot of. This time they had a lot of aircraft carriers and stuff. And we had a regular. It was called First Battle of the Philippine Sea.
Uh-huh.
It was the biggest. That was the biggest air battle. I mean, the biggest naval air battle ever fought. We were on our. We went to general quarters. It was in June by that time, and we had. We started heading for them, you know.
Mhm.
And we were escorting a carrier at that time. We were part of the escort. Let's see, they had one behind them. We were the one on the starboard side,
Mhm.
and they had another destroyer up ahead of us, and they had one on the other side. I mean, on the port side.
Mhm.
And but, well, they started when they sounded general quarters. We knew there was trouble on the way, you know.
Yeah.
And we were, and it was when we were on the way, we heard, we started getting reports of what it was, you know, they called it, and we heard this, they began to tell us that there was 100 airplanes were coming after us.
Uh-huh.
And we were with a task force, we were with one called 58.4, Task Force 58. We were part of Task Force 58. The 58.4 was one group of ships that were with them, but they were separate.
Uh-huh.
And about that time, they sounded general quarters, and they told us, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be about, it was about 10 o'clock in the morning or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they told us there was 100 aircraft. And then a little while later, there's 100 more coming from another direction, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then 100 more coming from another. Pretty soon, and they kept telling us, you know, there were groups of these 100
Yeah.
apiece, you know. And pretty soon we knew there was 416 airplanes coming after us. And the aircraft carriers started launching all the fighters and everything they had, you know.
They didn't have that many.
Well, no, not that
Not
many.
to
But
match
no,
them.
we probably had a lot of fighters. And
Okay.
we had them because there was more. We used to have a lot of aircraft carriers by then. See, we had about 20 of them suckers, and each one carried about 90 to 100 airplanes.
Oh, really? Okay.
So we started launching fighters, and
Uh-huh.
the fighters, they weren't the most of them, but they took off, and the fight began, man. They were 40 miles away when they intercepted them, and they were on the way in. And there was another group of ships off to the starboard side. And then you begin to hear this little, it sounded like popcorn or something going on. Pop, pop, pop.
Uh-huh.
They were firing, you know, and the sky started getting dark with all kinds of puffs of anti-aircraft, you know. And we knew that, you know, they were, and about that time, our pilots said they put it on loudspeaker so we can hear what was going on. And they said, yeah, we have them. He said, we're 40 miles away. He said, we spotted them. We said, we're going to attack now.
Mm-hmm.
So they did. Those guys never wasted a second, man. They saw them and they dove into attack, and there was a fight going on. Oh man, oh man.
Was that the biggest battle that you were in?
That was the biggest battle ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. It was the biggest naval air battle ever fought.
Wow.
Hell, you got 400 and over 400.
How long did it last?
Oh, it lasted all day long into the next day. Well, they weren't flying all the time, you know.
So did anyone win it, or did everybody
We did.
just kind of?
We wiped them out, man.
Oh, good.
We caught them. Our fighters shot the hell out of them, man.
Did they sink any ships?
No.
No?
We didn't lose one. The Japanese did. Because
Wow.
a lot of those, we sent up dive bombers and torpedo planes. You know,
Yeah.
torpedo planes caught them.
Yeah.
And just before there anything to defend them, before their fighters got there, you know,
Uh-huh.
they just dove on them and started sinking them right and left, man.
Yeah.
There was a lot of damage. So it was over. It was over for them because we knew that they were there and they were coming. So we got them, you know.
Yeah.
Then we went over and we invaded. I forgot. I think we invaded Saipan.
Uh-huh.
The Battle of Saipan, and I remember they sent us into Guam,
Uh-huh.
and we went around Guam, and I was kind of scared there because you don't know, you have artillery there, you know.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of gun emplacements around site, and we were just scouting around, see what was going to happen, and they man the rail. He said, if you see any flashes, you know, let us know, you know.
Uh-huh.
And we were there by ourselves, one ship, man. We were going around the island, and then we pulled out. A little later, we have this. We came back at night,
Uh-huh.
and we went into the harbor by ourselves, man. No, it was two of us. Yeah, two of us. Two destroyers. We went into the harbor, and there was we were just firing one gun at a time, and we were, but they, and all of a sudden, lights went. You got it on?
Yeah, I turned it back on. Go ahead.
Okay, the lights went on.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they put a lot of these searchlights on us, you know.
Uh-huh.
And we started shooting back, man. They were firing on us, man. They were splashing shells, great big ones. And they look about 8 inches, man. They're coming over.
Uh-huh.
And we started a regular fight with them inside their own harbor. We opened them. We went real fast. We were going around, and one of them we were letting out smoke
Mm-hmm.
to cover us. We'd get behind the smoke, and one of them there was a searchlight got on us,
Mm-hmm.
And, oh man, then you begin to feel it. You begin to get a lot of splashes around us, and somebody, they just bore sighted that light.
Mm-hmm.
They just put that light on through the tube of the five. We put a 5-inch gun on it, number 5 gun, I remember it was, and they we fired a shell right down the beam and put it out. Can you imagine how those guys, all of a sudden, they were
Yeah.
they were having fun until they got that 5-inch shell right down. Boom! Boy, that thing went out, and then we fought our way out of there,
Mm-hmm.
and we went out, and I remember they said somebody in the back on the stern of the ship had gotten some. By that time I was on a 40 millimeter.
Mm-hmm.
I was a pointer, yeah,
Uh-huh.
and 'cause they had assigned us to different places, and we were and we were on our way out, and we heard this. Yeah, we got out of there, and the next day we came back, and we went to the other side of Guam. We were shelling it, We went in there to bombard it, and we bombarded a place called Rhoda, an island called Rhoda, an island called Pagan or Pagan. Then we went over to what do they call it? The main one. That was the name of it. We were in the invasion of Guam. We went into Guam. That was the big one,
Mm-hmm.
This was the Japanese had captured it earlier in the war, the war first started, and we went around that night. Well, they drove us out of there,
Mm-hmm.
The next day, we came back with our big brother, man.
Mm-hmm.
We had some cruisers with us,
Mm-hmm.
with the big, and we had about 10 destroyers and a bunch of heavy cruisers, and by that time, we fired on them, we began to bombard them. We tore the place to pieces, man. We hit oil,
Guam.
we hit oil tanks, and the oil tanks would go, those great big tanks would go up in the air, hitting all that stuff, and getting us. There was some artillery up on one of the hillsides.
Mm-hmm.
They were firing on us, and then we got a when they began firing on us, our big ships, all of us, we blew the whole side of that hill came down, man. We blew it to pieces, and we tore that place up, and then we made a mess of it, We had to throw a few shells at Saipan and Tinian, and then we went back out to sea.
Mm-hmm.
Then they wanted us to go. We needed some. Our guns our ship had been out there for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and our guns were shot out, and we had to go have some repairs made and so they ordered us back to Mare Island in San Francisco.
Oh.
Well, the San Francisco Bay, it's up north, the northern part of the bay. And
Well, you guys were happy about that. You got to come back to the States.
We went back out there, and I got a chance to come home.
Yeah. Oh, you got to go home and see your
I got to
parents.
see my family,
Uh-huh.
And we went back.
How was your family? Were they worried? They worried, happy to see you,
yes,
worried
'cause
about you?
For a while, outside of my writing letters to my mother,
Mm-hmm.
It was well, we were glad to see them. we went back in, and I saw my sister by that time. She was she wasn't very old. She was in her early teens.
Mm-hmm.
She was about as old as you are.
Yeah.
And meaning Marky.
So when you went home, were you like the hero for being out there?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
They were just glad to see I was in one piece, you know.
Yeah.
And then we went to let's see, well, I spent my time there a few days, about 20 days or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks or something. I had to go back to San Francisco. Not to San Francisco, but to Mare Island.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to Mare Island, we got a chance to see the area around there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot whether I went to San Francisco, yeah, with some guys, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Made
On
the
leave.
tour of the city.
Yeah.
And then they ordered us back, and we went back to, we had gone to, well, I forgot to tell you, we had gone to Sydney, Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How was that?
Oh, we had, it was an old town. Because, you know, in those days, they must have been years behind us, you know. They still had the old flushing toilets that you use a chain on, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff
Oh,
like
really?
that.
A friend
Yeah,
of mine
man.
has one of those.
It was, and I don't know why, they never built anything, you know. But the only reason we had to go there, because the Japanese were, their troops were, they had, all the Australian troops were fighting in North Africa, and they moved them to, and when Japan declared war on us, they declared war on Britain and Holland and, you know, all the rest of it. And so we were in a war there with Japan and Germany and Italy.
You're in a war with Italy?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they were
That's
part of the
right.
Axis, you know.
That's right.
The Axis. So we went there, spent some time there,
Mm-hmm.
and we loved it there. Australian girls were real nice.
Oh, really? Pretty. They're English looking.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
from
they're
English.
They're
Descendants
Irish
of
and
English
Irish,
prisoners.
yeah.
Of Irish and English prisoners.
And and of course we parked in the Navy Yard. Well, they had workmen come aboard, you know, and started working on the ship, you know. So they took our guns off and replaced them with new ones, and they added two 40 millimeter anti-aircraft positions up near the front.
Mm-hmm.
And because we used to only have, say, 220s up there, and that wasn't much. And once we got that, and this is where we got the idea of steak and eggs. The Australians love steak and eggs.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Of course, in Australia, you had a lot of sheep and cattle.
Oh, okay.
So there, you know, and they had a lot of that stuff. But I'll tell you one thing, man. The Australians, yes, they're big, man. They're big husky fellows.
Really?
Oh yeah, man. Because they've been in there since the 1700s or something.
Yeah.
And they were, what was the name of? They had been there, and then after we had a great time, met all the Australian girls, and we
Mm-hmm.
took off. You know. And we went up to, we went back to the Solomons and up to our main bases and stuff like that. And then, let's see. And then we went through what I told you previously, you know, fighting around the northern Solomons and stuff like that. Then we went back to, this time we went back to the main base called Majuro.
Uh-huh.
And then we had to go to Kwajalein and Eniwetok. Eniwetok was the last place was for, everybody gathered there in those islands. I forgot the name of them, but they were, then they took them, what's the name of the islands? They were actually, they were with, they were with, there was groups of these in the Pacific called atolls.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest one was, Kwajalein was the biggest atoll of all. And we talked was where they, finally at the end of the war, they exploded an atom bomb, and they were, that's where they did their experimentation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
On that island?
Yeah, well, it's not an island, on the atoll.
Oh.
Yeah, well, this was after the war was over. But we went back there, and then we went from there. We finished with the Marianas, and then we started. Shoot, that's been a long time. We went to a place in the Bismarck Archipelago, they called it.
For the bathroom.
Where we were starting to gather a lot of ships there.
Where at? Where about?
I'm trying to think of the name of the island. It was actually a group of islands, and with a lot of warships were gathering there, man. Warships and transports and stuff like that. And they wouldn't tell us anything yet. And airplanes, I went to one of the islands, I forgot, Manus. The name of the island was Manus, but it was the Negros Islands. It was the name of the islands. And I think this is medicine. Your grandma's medicine.
Okay.
Okay. And we went to that, yeah, we were at Manus, and at Manus and one day, an ammunition ship blew up, and it sank ships near it. I mean, it was such a tremendous explosion.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went, it was a great big boom, and I mean, it was enormous, man.
Mm-hmm.
And ships near it sank, I mean, it just blew them to hell. And they don't know what it was. Somebody may have been handling explosives and you goofed it, but when you have a whole ship full of explosives, you can imagine how big the explosion was, man. And I guess they were bringing in ammunition for the invasion of the Philippines,
Mm.
So because there was a lot of ships gathering there. And then one day, they got us together. We had gone to, we had done a lot of practice, invasion practice and shelling and stuff like that. All kinds of things like that. Then we went out, we started to pull out.
Uh-huh.
All kinds of ships, it was a big task force. There was not only one task force, not only ours, but a lot of them,
Uh-huh.
started to come out of there. And they told us, he said, that attention all hands, he said, we're on our way to invade the Philippines. I
Uh-huh.
said, boy, he
Yeah.
said, and this is going to mean that the Japanese are going to come out with their navy at
Uh-huh.
last, because for a long time they hadn't really brought out their navy.
Uh-huh.
Well, they did for the first battle of the Philippine Sea, but this was the big one. This is the biggest naval battle ever fought.
Mm-hmm.
It's the battle for the Philippines, because they told us that they let us know that there was going to be one great big fight for the Philippines. So on our way, they were informing us that we had been through all kinds of exercises.
Mm-hmm.
Said from then on, everybody wore their sleeves down on their shirts and wore hats.
Why?
Explosions.
Oh.
So that flash won't burn you,
Yeah.
And we had all kinds of things. We went through all kinds of drills. We went through first aid, stuff
Uh-huh.
like that. And they told us, if some of the ships get hit and the guys are in the water, forget about it.
Really?
You're not going to stop. He said, you're going to keep going, you know.
Wow.
He said, they had made provisions for that, you know. They had some kinds of ships designated to go pick them up.
Oh.
The guys that were going to do the shooting.
So don't try to pick them up.
they were going to pick them up.
Yeah.
That's one thing about the Americans. They're going to rescue people. You know?
Yeah.
And we were on our way up there, and we began to hear that some destroyers ships had gone on ahead. You know, they said, you know, he said, those suckers are committing suicide. You know, he said, oh shit. You know, I had read about it in Life magazine that during the war they were fighting against China. You know, before.
Japan was?
Oh yeah,
Really?
they had been going on since 1937. No,
Kidding.
many years before they had been fighting in China. You know?
Uh-huh.
So by that time they had a pretty well-trained army. You know? And we went. Let's see, that was that went through my head. You know, uh-oh. He said these guys are up to something. You know.
Yeah.
And we were, and I didn't know what was going to happen, you know. So once, and then we began to see ships hit, man. A lot of them, you know. We get to see a lot of. He said, hey, you know, these guys are carrying on a war with our stacks, you know. A lot of them would miss and hit the stacks on destroyers and ships like that, and so they're going to have to, you know, get more practice.
Yeah.
Well, you only practice once. There's no practice.
Yeah.
That's
the practice.
So we started to go into the Philippines, and the battle the invaded lady ahead of us, you know. And they took us to escort carriers.
Well, you don't record me.
Why not?
What are you doing?
Checking how many minutes there are.
Okay.
Okay. In the Philippines.
In the Philippines, okay. We got there. There was everything was. There was a lot of shooting right away, you know. Because the first place we went to was at Leyte. They were invading Leyte, and there was a whole bunch of landing craft there on the beach, and here it comes. And then, as it started getting dark, you know, it was getting late in the afternoon. Here come the airplanes. They come down, and I couldn't see too much because the first thing I did was. I wanted to find a place to take cover, you know,
Yeah.
because planes were coming down and they were machine gunning the place. They were strafing it
Oh, really?
from one end of the beach. I could see them coming over the landing craft and those LSTs and stuff like that. And then everybody opened fire on it, you know, blah, 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 blah. And there was a big shootout there, you know. And they finally left. It's a funny thing. They didn't have any suiciders. They didn't have any kamikazes come in and try that time. But and then there was a lot of fighting back in the jungles and back in the groves of coconut trees. They were having the army and the Japanese were shooting it out in there. And then we, as I remember, and then the night came by, and all the soldiers were advancing on the Japanese, and there was a lot of shooting going on. And because we were pretty close to the beach then, you know. We could hear it, and then next morning we all gathered together. We gathered a bunch of ships together, destroyers usually, and one heavy cruiser. It was the Louisville, I think it was called. And we started to pull out, and we were going to go invade, we were going to go land on a place, on another island behind it. It was it's called, Mindoro.
Mm-hmm.
We were gonna go to Mindoro, and we were invading it. And on the, that was a nightmare going there. We, as we were pulling out, some of these suicide torpedo boats came out. What it was, they were like kamikazes, except they were real fast boats, which had an explosive charge, you know, like a torpedo or something. They were just like a torpedo that is in a boat, you know. They crashed into you and blow you the hell up.
Yeah.
And they were coming down, and some of our destroyers engaged them and took them under fire right away and drove them off. I guess blew a lot of them off. But we had to stay in our position.
Mm-hmm.
We were on the port side of the heavy cruiser. Well, then we found out that on the heavy cruiser that Douglas MacArthur was on
Really?
it. Yeah, yeah. And then, and a little while later, the next day, we got some planes come in, you know, and one crazy a plane was coming down, you know. They were trying to get the heavy cruiser. Maybe
Mhm.
they knew that MacArthur
They were
was on it.
kamikazes?
No, this one was, I don't know what he was doing, but he was starting to come down, and he was coming down, everybody was firing on him, and about that time, a P-38, one of ours, a fighter, came after him. He went down through all that gunfire, man.
Uh-huh.
He could have been hit, you know, and he shot him down. He shot it down, and there was all kinds of crazy things, like we had those suicide torpedo boats, and later on, as it started, late in the afternoon, we got the sightings, you know, of airplanes coming in, and they started to come in on us, and I looked up, and there they were, you know.
Yeah.
They were on our port side. I looked up, and I tried to report them, you know, and the guy couldn't catch on, you know.
Uh-huh.
I told him it's on the port side at around 270 or something.
Uh-huh.
270 was the
Were you
number
on
of
a
degrees.
radio or?
No, I had a pair of earphones on.
Uh-huh.
And I had a thing like that, and
Uh-huh.
I had that great big helmet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know, you've seen them.
So it's like a radio, wasn't it?
Yes, no, it's actually, it was a sound-powered telescope. It was a sound-powered telephone,
Mm.
and they had them all throughout the ship. You know,
Mhm.
they didn't need any. They didn't need electricity to run them. They just had it was called sound-powered. It just, when you spoke into it, it generated its own signal and
Oh,
went to
okay.
different stations. You know,
Uh-huh.
and
So you tried to tell him he didn't understand what you were saying?
oh, that guy, I couldn't get him. Where? And I told him, you know.
Uh-huh.
He
He
said
couldn't
on
see
the
him?
port side at 270. You know, it said all I had to do was
They
give
must
him
have
the
been really
degrees.
far away for him not to be able to
No,
see
no,
you.
I could see him. You know,
Yeah.
and I could see them. There was about 5 or 6
Were they just
of
like
them up
little
above.
tiny dots, or were
Well,
they?
yeah, they just looked like black dots
Little
up there, you
dots
know.
way out in the
And
distance.
I called it out and actually our lookouts are supposed to have better eyesight than normal, you know.
Uh-huh. But you weren't a lookout. What were you?
I was down in a repair party at that time.
Oh, okay.
They took me down there, and I was looking up, and I could see them, you know,
Uh-huh.
and
So you were trying to report him, and you
yeah,
couldn't.
I reported them all right, and then they started diving. I thought, oh, they're gonna dive bomb us.
Yeah.
And he started coming down, you know, and he was coming, and
Was it a
as
kamikaze?
yeah, so we found out what they
Yeah.
were. Yeah, the damn thing was coming down, and I remember him coming down, and he turned, you know, sideways to us like that, and you could see that big red meatball on the side of his fuselage. And I thought, well, he was trying to get an LST. I thought he was going to try to dive bomb it, you know.
Mhm.
Instead, he went right into it, man.
What's an
And that was the
LST?
first time I had ever seen one, you know.
What's an LST?
An LST, it's it looks like it looks like a ship,
Mm.
but it has a front that opens up and
So you thought he
they
was gonna
land
hit
on it.
into that?
Yeah, we thought they were going to, you know, they were gonna dive bomb it. He
Uh-huh.
wasn't dive bombing, he was gonna slam the whole plane into
Yeah.
it, you know. He came down, he hit it, you know. And I thought, oh my, I was terrified. I thought,
Oh, yeah.
holy smoke, man.
Yeah.
The guy was crazy. I thought, at the last moment, I thought he was gonna drop his bomb, but no,
But
he
was
kept
that the
coming.
first you heard or
That's
saw
the
of a
first time I
kamikaze?
actually, I've heard of them
You
before,
heard of them,
you know.
but you didn't know they.
I had seen a lot of damaged ships, you know.
But you hadn't actually seen one damage.
Yeah, this time I saw that sucker. He hit, man.
Wow.
And then there was another one. He came after an LST.
What ship did he hit? Not your ship. He hit another ship.
No, he hit an LST behind us, and boom, boy, he hit him, and that was a horrible explosion. Those guys they were shooting all their, you know, their anti-aircraft.
Yeah.
They weren't
Because you want to blow it up before it hits your ship.
Well, you'd like to, you know, at least, you know,
Yeah.
make him change his mind.
Yeah.
And then behind him, there was another one, because there was another crazy guy was coming down on him. He was
Yeah.
diving on him, you know. And I thought, and he dove right into the one behind
The
us.
other LST?
Yeah, they were all behind us. You know.
Why did they go after the LSTs and not your ship?
I don't know. Maybe they looked like aircraft carriers. They wanted the aircraft carriers so bad.
Yours wasn't an aircraft carrier?
Oh,
Yours was a destroyer?
Small.
well, I was on a destroyer.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
the Charles Osborne.
Yeah.
And he hit that second one. Then another one came down and hit a third one. You know, I'm not sure. I can't remember whether
What
there
do
was
the
a fourth one.
LSTs do? What is the purpose of an LST?
Well, they land equipment on the beach.
Oh.
You know, but we were on our way to invade a place called Mindoro, so we were going to need these. You
Okay.
know, they just run them right up on the beach. You know, and open the doors and tanks.
Out they
and,
go, okay.
Tanks and infantry and everything
So
come
you
out of
lost
there.
3 right there.
Yeah, 3 of them.
And then what happened?
I'm not sure there was for 4th. And then this one, and there was, oh yeah, remember, there was a 4th one. He came down and he pulled out and he started going over the whole convoy, you know. And everybody was firing on him. They weren't hitting him, you know.
Uh-huh.
And he got to the far side of the convoy, and it was one of our ships in our squadron. It was the Foot.
Uh-huh.
And he started going for it.
What
And
is
the
the
Foot-
foot?
The Foot was the name of another destroyer.
Oh, okay.
He was
Never heard of
going
that
He
one.
was going after they called it the Foot, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I remember he got hit in the Solomons. You know, they took a torpedo in the Solomons.
Uh-huh.
And that sucker, he pulled out, he started going over the whole convoy, and he was homing in on that destroyer Foot.
Uh-huh.
And they began shooting at him, man. They gave him everything they had, man.
Yeah.
And they, you know,
Yeah.
you can't believe it. And there was shells and anti-aircraft flying all over the place, and he was almost to them, you know.
Uh-huh.
They were boom, you know.
They couldn't hit him?
Well, they just weren't hitting. All of a sudden, he was almost on them when boom, he exploded into a big ball of fire. you know,
Really? So
big-
somebody hit him?
Yeah, well,
They don't know who.
the Foot got him,
The Foot
you know.
got him. Oh, that's good.
And it went into the water, and it hit the water and
Uh-huh.
bounced off and went over the Foot, flaming like that, dropping all kinds of
well,
debris
at
on
least they didn't
it,
get
and
hit.
it crashed on the other side of it.
Wow.
And oh man, I tell you, it was a real mess, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think there was 5 planes altogether, and I guess he
Uh-huh.
was taking. Everybody else everybody was firing at him, you know. And then but we didn't shoot any down at that time.
Yeah.
But well, that was one for the Foot anyhow. And and then everything quieted down, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All the snowy planes. But I remember noticing there was one plane that came with them,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, see, they used to use these guys that didn't even know how to. They knew how to take off an airplane, but they didn't necessarily have to know how to land it. You know?
Yeah.
They were just
Oh,
gonna.
yeah, kinda like the terrorists now, they learn how
Yeah,
to
but
take
what
off.
yeah, what it was just a one-way ride, you know?
They probably purposely don't show them how to land it, that way if they change their
No.
mind, they have no choice.
They a lot. There's some of them.
Did you ever see one change his mind?
Well,
and
I
fly
never
out?
seen it, but I heard stories of it. You know,
Really?
that some guy just he just
Parachuted out.
he just put it skidded in into the water, you know, and climbed out, you know, and he he
Surrendered?
he just yeah he just went out and they went over picked him up, you know, because he might have some important information, you know.
Wow.
And when they went up there. They claimed he spoke English.
Really?
It turned, he went to a university here in California.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. He must have gotten maybe drafted in the Japanese army and figured he'd find his way
Oh,
out
yeah.
or something, you know, didn't have a choice.
He had no choice
Yeah.
but then. And they were willing, if they were willing to commit suicide.
I'm surprised they trusted him with the plane and everything. Well, they
Well,
didn't.
no, they didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't know. But anyhow, the guy. But that night, after we had that big frou-frou with those airplanes, and we lost 3 ships there. I mean, three of them, and we had I forgot what they called it. They acted as they picked up anybody that was in the water and stuff like that. Because those three LSTs were gone. Now, as far as I know, there was 4, but I was so busy doing other things, I didn't have a chance to look.
Uh-huh.
But later that night, we stayed at general quarters, you know.
Uh-huh.
And later that night, they claimed there was about 30 airplanes came down, and they were trying to drop bombs on it, you know, and you see just flashes in the water, you know, and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And next morning, we were bombarding that, what do they call it, the island of Mindoro, and our troops were landing over there. They landed on him, and they took care of him right away. And then there was there was an ammunition ship. There was an ammunition ship there, and some destroyers had gone in there to reload with ammunition. And while he was there, while they were reloading, here comes the suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot whether it was us that we pulled out in a hurry, but we were out here protecting them, you know. And that sucker, he went down the first time, you know, and he pulled out, you know, and he was trying to get a destroyer, I remember, and he pulled out. And he didn't drop a bomb or anything, but I guess he changed his mind about crashing into him. But he went out and over, and then he came down, and he tried to hit it. He tried to crash into him, and I guess the guy outmaneuvered him, you know, and he went into the water, man.
Really?
Boom, yeah, he hit the water.
He missed it?
He missed it. You know. And there was a big there was they had to pull some of the ships out of there because it's a big Japanese task force, you know, battleships and cruisers and everything coming out there. We wouldn't
they
stand
were
a
on their
chance
way.
against them. Yeah, they were on.
So they never got Mindoro?
We were. Oh yeah, we got it.
Oh, okay.
We put our troops on it, and we were coming up. There was a lot of these islands. The moment they knew that they had support.
Mm-hmm.
They had guerrillas on the island. The Filipino guerrillas would get in there and tangle with the Japanese troops. Yeah, they'd fight them. But you know, if they didn't have any backup, man, I mean, they'd just be massacred. You know.
Why was Japan trying to take all those islands? Why was everybody trying to take the islands?
They were trying to establish
A base?
No, they were trying to build an empire, I guess, in the
Oh.
Pacific. They were going to rule it because they were ruling it all the way down to. They went all the way. They took over up to the border of India.
Well, you know, they might have succeeded if they hadn't taken
Yeah,
on the United States.
Well, they took over. They took over what we call Vietnam now, but it was Indochina in those They,
Ah, that's right,
and
always
then,
after the
then there
Chinese.
was that little, there's several countries down there. You know.
Uh-huh,
And they took them over, and then they landed on the Indonesia, all those islands in Indonesia. Well,
Mhm.
they wanted those, 'cause they had oil and tin
Ah.
and rubber and stuff like that, all
Okay.
the materials, and they went, they took over Vietnam, what we call Vietnam now. You know.
Uh-huh,
But we were in, there was we started going down, and we found out, I guess a submarine told us,
uh-huh.
we got word that we were head on in a huge Japanese task force. You know.
Really? So this was after you left, you were leaving the Philippines?
No, we were leaving Mindoro.
Oh.
We were going back to, we were trying to get back to Leyte, so we had to duck around the islands.
Back
you
to
know.
Leyte?
Yeah.
As it was called, Leyte?
No, Leyte was the place where we first landed, you know.
Oh, okay.
We had to go around, and I guess we go up Surigao Strait and
Uh-huh.
get out of there. And there was a big naval battle there. They pulled us out because they needed some of these little jeep carriers
Mhm.
that were supporting the landings, you know, on these islands all around.
Uh-huh.
And they were ready?
Yep.
Okay, there we are.
Okay, you're heading into the big battle.
Yeah, we went through Surigao Strait. We went back to Leyte, and then they picked us up. They ordered us out to go escort some jeep carriers,
Mhm.
and we were in what they called Taffy 3.
Mhm.
There was 3 groups: Taffy 1, Taffy 2, Taffy 3. We were in Taffy 3. We were at the end of the line, and during the day we got some air attacks, but they weren't suicide. They were regular, you know. And when we were back there, we heard that Taffy 1 is in serious trouble.
Mhm.
I guess that big Japanese task force came around, went through the islands, and was starting. And because the Third Fleet had been lured away north
Mhm.
by the Japanese had a little trick.
What is?
There was that had been they were lured away, and they were chasing another task force up north, you know.
Mhm.
And we were down here with just these little tiny what they call jeep carriers. You know, all they carried was a few fighters. You know, like what they were carrying was those kind of what they call them corsairs. Yeah.
Mhm.
And they were good fighters and everything, but not to sink a ship or anything, maybe damage it by strapping it. But anyhow, we were in we got one, and we went to general quarters. But they made us stay there to protect the jeep carriers, you know.
Mhm.
And but all the destroyers that were up north and at that time, they all went down, because they were.
They got sunk?
Yeah, man, they had a zillion of those. Oh, not your mother.
Oh.
But anyhow, all the destroyers were lost, and one of the jeep carriers was lost.
Mhm.
Because that was a huge task force, man. They came, one of the biggest battleships in the world was with them, you know, and they had a whole mess of ships, you know, like heavy cruisers, light cruisers, destroyers, and everything. They didn't have aircraft carriers with them, but,
Mhm.
and then and there was a big, there was a big battle. They lost all the destroyers.
So you guys weren't in it. You weren't in that
No,
battle.
no, we were too far. We were away from it. Does she stink?
Dang, yeah.
Get away from here. Down, 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 down. Get down, get down.
Okay. Go ahead.
But anyhow,
So did you show up after the battle was over?
Well, we didn't have to, because that Third Fleet turned around and was headed back. And then and about that time see, they were headed back, and the Japanese, I wouldn't say they chickened out. They wanted to save whatever they had left of their navy, because after that was over, they didn't have much of a navy left.
Oh, really?
Our aircraft carriers, our airplanes took care of them.
Yeah.
Oh,
So both sides took heavy hits.
Yeah. But we didn't suffer as much as they did. But I mean, they really took a beating there. That's why they started using
Stink. Those dogs. Anyways, okay.
They were fighting.
So where were you guys going when you took off from Lady? When you got to Lady?
The Lady, well, we had to go out to sea to escort these carriers. There was about,
okay.
I think there was 6 of them or 9.
So you were just escorting them to different
Yeah.
locations?
Well, no, we were just, they were sending out fighters with
Mhm.
rockets and stuff like that to support the landings.
Mhm.
And they were down there, and they were, while the landings and the fighting was going on, they'd come over and, they'd strafe the Japanese and shoot everything up, And then after that, we'd, we just, one airplane got in, and we fired a few shots and got rid of it. And then later on, the Lady fell.
Oh, really?
And then we captured Mindoro, and we went over to support landings on Negros Island and on I forgot Cebu, Panay,
Mhm.
and Panay. We weren't around invading everybody, and then we went over. There was a big task force going up. We were going to invade Luzon, which is the main island,
Mhm.
the big main island, and we joined them, and we became pickets for it. We were guarding it.
Mhm.
The Japanese were crazy. They tried to send in, ships and
Mhm.
stuff like that as a one last desperate effort to, save themselves. And at nighttime, I forget what time at nighttime, they called us to general quarters, and we ran out, we went to general quarters, and it seems like there was, our radar had picked up something,
Mhm.
So we closed in on it, We were only, I think we were at 1,100 yards away from them, which is pretty damn close, for artillery. And then we didn't know, nobody knew what it was. We didn't anyhow.
Mhm.
And about that time, I heard it over the phones that we were going to shoot at it, They said, we're going to light her up, shoot star shells. And we fired star shells, and we lit it up. And it was a destroyer. The moment we lit it up, she fired on us.
Mm.
A bunch of shells landed around
Yeah,
us.
I knew.
And then we fired our first salvo at it. We got him on the first salvo.
Wow.
Yeah. We got him on the first one, the second one, the third one, 5 in a row, man. We nailed him.
Is
By
that
that
those
time,
the big guns that they shoot on the side, or
no,
what's the
these,
salvo?
These were, those little, what they call them, our 5-inch battery. That's the main battery.
Those are the ones that come out from the bottom?
No, no, you're talking about torpedoes. We had 10 torpedoes too. We didn't fire them.
You never used them? Not for that?
Well, not for that. We had fired them
What's a
earlier in the
salvo?
war. And we had some, land naval battles, on the surface of the ship, and our ship fired 10 altogether fired 10 torpedoes at him.
Yeah.
We nailed some of them.
Yeah.
And that guy, and and there was a big, I mean, it was a mess there, man. Everybody was we were blazing at them, and they'd fire back at us.
But did they sink?
We blew them up, man.
And they sunk down, wow.
Well, yeah, we shot them up, and they were trying to make a fight of it, but
Yeah,
too late. We had too many hits on them, and they never
Yeah.
got one hit on us, man.
uh-huh.
And they were splashing shells around us, you know. And we couldn't. We were going pretty fast, and they were and then we began to close in. We started at 8,000 yards, and we closed up to 1,100, which was right on top of them almost. And we began firing right at them, you know.
Uh-huh.
Fired salvos into them.
What are salvos?
Salvos, all the guns go off at once, you know. All the guns go.
Oh,
Boom.
okay. All right.
And then we nailed them, you know. After a while, the sucker, there was a huge explosion, you know, and it blew up. The magazines, we probably got to the magazines, you know,
Uh-huh.
and there was, it looked like a big orange flash bulb. It blinded you, you
Yeah.
know, and it went, and you could see pieces of the ship, you know, when it was flying toward us, and
Uh-huh.
we got the word, you know, everybody on the deck, you know, they said, take
Why'd they
cover.
want you on the deck? Oh, everybody on the deck take cover, okay.
Yeah, take cover, because those things are gonna be falling around us.
Yeah.
Because you see
How
pieces.
far was the ship from you?
When it blew up, it was about 1,100 yards. That was close.
That's like from my house to your house?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
That's, let's see, 1,100 yards. 1 mile is less than a mile away.
Yeah.
It's less than a mile away.
This blew up enough to...
1,706.
So did a lot of stuff land on the ship?
No, none of it even reached us, you know. We
Oh,
was,
that's good.
maybe it just went in another direction, man.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden, it began to, you know, it just disappeared. So,
Nobody
everything
jumped
was-
overboard?
and
No
everything was-
survivors?
no, we didn't pick up nobody,
Really?
no survivors. They told us, even our own, you know,
Uh-huh.
whatever it is, you just forget about it.
Wow.
Because it was I mean, 2 big navies were shooting it up,
Yeah.
and that's it, you know.
Okay. So what happened after that?
Oh, well, after that, we went out to, we went over and we bombarded that white beach on Luzon. Actually, the name of the place was, what was the name of it? Well, there was a big area there. When we started reaching it, the battleships were firing on it. I mean, battleships, all the heavy guns were really blowing the place to hell, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was a seaplane tender that had gone into the bay there.
Mm-hmm.
Lingayen Gulf, they call it, Lingayen Bay. And it was there, and it had all the seaplanes around it, and I guess it was servicing them, you know. And all of a sudden, shells started landing around it, you know. Oh man, they went to general quarters real quick and started shooting back, you know. About that time, then we got ready to fire on them, you know. We had to protect that thing. But as it happened, they just pulled out of range, you know. That was it. But when we got there that morning, man, I remember the sky there was all kinds of red balls going through the air, you know.
Really?
And then, oh yeah, man, you know.
That was Luzon?
Onto Luz, they were
Oh.
firing. And then, airplanes came over. We had a roof of that. We had a roof of gunfire over us, you know.
Really? So it was both sides?
We were shooting. Everybody was
They
shooting.
were shooting, everybody was shooting.
Yeah.
It was a pretty
And
big battle.
about this time, they assigned me over as a gunner,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to sit there.
Why did they change you to a gunner? Needed a
They
gunner?
just, I had been a gunner in the Marianas. I had
Oh,
sat.
okay.
I remember
Maybe they
in the
switched people
Marianas,
around.
we caught a boat or something,
Uh-huh.
like for a landing craft or something. And I couldn't see anything in front of me, but I guess they pointed our guns. Everybody's guns was pointed on it, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna really have to kill someone this time. I was
Yeah.
getting ready to fire. I was waiting for the signal to fire, you know, because I had the trigger on my right foot. I just
Oh, really?
push it down like a pellet, and boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. And when they'd begin to send a signal with a red light.
Oh, when to fire.
They said that we just forgot about it. You know, we just let them go. You know, the thing was full of Marines, man. Imagine how many Americans I would have had to kill.
You would have had to kill your own Marines?
Yeah, we didn't know who they were.
Oh.
I mean, you gotta wise up. You know, when
Yeah.
you're in war, you're not messing around. You know.
Yeah.
I bet they had to sweat it out, man, 'cause they had warships on fire on them.
Well, who was it? Did you ever
Yeah.
find out?
No, we just knew it was one of ours. You know.
And you guys shot your own?
No, we didn't shoot them.
Oh, you found out. Oh, the red was to stop you from shooting.
Yeah, the red was a signal.
Oh.
They gave us the right signal.
I
They told us that, you know,
Okay.
don't shoot.
Yeah.
So, we're Americanos. You know.
Wow.
And then later, we when we were in Langan Gulf, we had a lot of air raids there, man. And they'd come over all the time, you know, we were supposed to pull out that night and go someplace, and just before we pulled out, man, there was another air raid, and whoa, everybody was shooting, man, and we started to pull out, and there was another ship ahead of us. It looked like a cargo ship or something. He was going out the channel there, and I think everybody was firing over it. Something was coming down over it, you know, on that. We were trying to save it, and here it comes. And at the last moment, I saw the sort of a shadow, you know. And wham! And it hit that thing, and that thing exploded. It wasn't too far from us, too. It was probably about from here to your house, you know. And I could feel the heat from that fire. It hit me in the face, you know. Ooh,
Was that a kamikaze?
Yeah. He crashed into
Nobody got him. Wow.
hit him,
So-
and then we pulled out of there. I don't know. Nobody survived it anyhow. So, I guess we went back, and I forgot where we went, but we had to load up with ammunition and supplies and everything, and they made us part of another force, and we were headed. I forgot. I'm not sure whether we ever came back to Linga, and I doubt it. But then we went down, and we went to land on it's a big island in the Philippines, the southernmost island in there. And that's where we saw these guys. When we got there, there was what they call a banca. It was an outrigger canoe came out, had 3 people on it, and they were wearing, back at the beginning of the war, they used to use these soup plate helmets, you know, the round ones, instead of a different style. You know.
Really?
Yeah, and these guys were carrying submachine guns, you know.
And they were wearing soup plate helmets?
Yeah.
Were they Americans?
They sure were. Well,
In a canoe?
2 of them were Filipino scouts,
Ah.
and the other one was an American captain.
Okay.
And he was in the Signal Corps. He's one of the guys that stayed on. You know, he didn't give up. He went up into the hills and joined the Filipino guerrillas, and off he went. And while he was there with them, they got on board the ship. He gave his papers to us, you know, to our officers, and those guys they had tears coming out of their eyes. You know.
Why?
Shoot, they had been together for 4 years, man, fighting the
really?
Japanese, you know. And they got pretty close, you know. They were.
Well, what, were they leaving each other?
Well, yeah, the Filipinos had to go back to the.
Ah.
and carry on the war, you know.
Uh-huh.
And,
So you came to pick up the Americans?
yeah, well, we didn't expect to pick up anybody. We were supposed to shell a place called the Parang area,
Uh-huh.
and they landed a whole bunch of troops there. You know, we brought some troops with us, you know, on transports and LSTs, and they just landed them.
Uh-huh.
And when they, you know, when we got to that Parang area,
Mm-hmm.
all the Japanese were dead.
Really?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, these guys they call the Moros, they're real mean suckers in the Philippines. The moment they found out they were going to have some backup, they wiped out the garrison.
Really?
Yeah, man, with machetes, you know, they use the bolo
Wow.
knives.
Only 1 minute.
Go ahead.